People kept telling me, just control what you can control. And I remember thinking, control what exactly? Because it felt like there was nothing in my marriage that I could control. I couldn't control his moods. I couldn't control his shutdowns. I couldn't control these sudden reactions that made me feel like I'd stepped on a landmine. It felt like trauma was running our home, and I was just trying to survive inside it. But here's what changed everything for me. I eventually realized that there was more in control than I had ever been shown. And it wasn't what I thought. There was a season where I truly believed my emotional state rose and fell with his. If he was calm, I could exhale. If he was triggered, my entire body went on alert. I thought my job was to manage the temperature of the room, to prevent explosions, to say the perfect thing. But it wasn't this type of control. That's hypervigilance, and it's exhausting. You cannot control, however, when he chooses to address his trauma. You cannot control his triggers. You cannot control the pace of his healing, and you cannot control the emotions that flood him. But here's the hard truth. The more you actually try to manage those things, the more powerless you feel, because you're trying to grip something that was never yours to behold. Okay. The most empowering thing I did learn was that the vast majority of the emotions that were coming at me had nothing to do with me. Let that breathe. So many of his reactions weren't about my tone or my timing or my character. They were old wounds showing up, old fear, old shame, old survival patterns that had been wired long before I entered the picture. And when I understood that, two things happened. Number one, I stopped personalizing everything. And number two, I stopped scrambling to fix what wasn't mine. That is what you can control. Not controlling him, but controlling what meaning you assign to what's happening. What you can control whether you absorb emotions that aren't yours, whether you react defensively, whether you escalate, or whether you internalize his pain as proof that you failed. And that shift gave me steadiness I didn't know was possible. Controlling what you control really means regulating your own nervous system, setting behaviors around behavior, setting boundaries around behavior, choosing when to engage and when to pause, deciding what you will no longer personalize, building support outside your marriage. It really means anchoring yourself, because when you can stop trying to control his healing, you can finally reclaim your own strength. If you remember nothing else, I want you to remember this. You cannot control someone else's trauma response, but you can control whether you take it on as your identity. When emotions come at you, pause and ask, is this about me or is this an old wound speaking? That one question will change how you stand in your marriage. Not smaller, not reactive, but steady. You have more control than you think. Not over him, but over you. And that is where real power begins. Before we end, I want to give you something really practical. If you've been trying to communicate better, if you've been trying to stay calmer, giving more space, trying harder, and it still feels like you're stuck in the same cycle over and over again, it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because there's a nervous system pattern running your relationship. And most couples don't even know it's there. And that is why I created a free quiz, and it's called The 9 Patterns Keeping You Apart. Which one is running your relationship? Because until you can name the pattern, you keep trying to fix the symptoms. This quiz is going to help you identify the exact dynamic you're caught in and give you clear next steps for how to respond differently. And you can take it at daniellesebastian.com/find-your-pattern. It's quick, it's eye-opening, and it might explain more than years of frustration ever have. Go take it, get clarity, and let's start working with what's actually happening, not just reacting to it.